Hello and welcome back to Tiny Arters TV. Today we are going to be doing a Saturday morning shuffle. So since we already did a fantasy character Saturday morning shuffle, that means we're going to be doing a Pokemon Gijinka Saturday morning shuffle. So because it's spring, we're going to be doing grass type Gijinkas. However, this video is going to have a little bit of a twist to it, and I think you'll enjoy it. So let's go ahead and pull up our Pokemon generator. And let's see. Grass type, and we're going to be generating 6 without the Ubers. We don't need it. Alright, so I'm going to be assigning these guys a number 1 through 6 and pairing them up randomly based on what I get, and we're going to be doing Pokemon Gijinka fusions. So let's get started. So these are our pairings based on our random dice rolls. As you can see, there's going to be some pretty interesting combinations here. And I was going to do this digitally, but as you can see, I'm having a little trouble with my tablet, so we're going to move this to the studio. So for this video, the way I'm doing the fusions is kind of like a traditional Pokemon fusion, where if you go online to the Pokemon Fusion website, they take the face of one and then the body and color palette of another and kind of mash them together. So I have my little set of rules down here just to kind of keep myself straight, and I'm also circling which elements are going to be like the key identifiers for each Pokemon. The Venusaur Rosary combo was the easiest to work with because they had the most notable elements. But the Whimsicott Bulbasaur mashup was a little bit simpler because these Pokemon are basically just two cute, small, round things. So I basically just went with the child's design for that mashup. But then later when I do the Gloom Victory Bell mashup, oh boy, she was just not giving me anything. The color palettes were weird. The shapes just didn't mesh quite right, but I got it to work somehow, or at least I think so. Let me know what you think down in the comments at the end of this video. But the Venusaur combo and the Bulbasaur Whimsicott combo were definitely the better of the three, in my opinion. So now we're starting on the lines, and I mean, it is what it is. I skipped a lot of the sketching process just because you can't really see a lot of what's going on. So the lines are where, you know, all of the work is really going to show before we get into the coloring. And here's our finished sketch, or line art at this point. So as per usual for these videos, it's now time to share some Pokefacts. So we're going to start with Venusaur and just kind of work our way down the roster here. So Venusaur is the third Pokemon, like, out of all of them, because he's from Gen 1, and he is the evolved form of Bulbasaur and Ivysaur. Of course, he is a grass-type Pokemon, but he is also a multi-class type, being poison as well. Recently, they have gotten, or they've given Venusaur a Mega Evolution form and a Gigantamax Evolution form. Venusaur on its own is already a pretty strong Pokemon, so I guess with the Mega Evolutions and the Gigantamax forms, they were just trying to pump new blood into the Pokemon franchise for, I guess, people who have been longtime fans and wanted something new, or people who were new to the game and wanted something big and flashy. I think they're kind of unnecessary. Some people like them, but hey, to each their own. So now back to the facts about Venusaur. According to Ken Sugimori, who is the main character designer behind Pokemon, in an interview he was discussing the franchise in general and had mentioned that Venusaur was inspired by frogs, albeit with elements of other animals. When asked to describe the basis of the design behind Bulbasaur evolutionary line, Sugimori had stated that it was a creature that is something like a frog. In another interview, he described the origin and the basic theme of the starter Pokemon. The experience of keeping small animals such as frogs, lizards, and baby turtles as pets gives the game a sense of reality and makes it easier to get into the game. He realized it must be difficult to make an emotional connection if the first partner Pokemon is a tough-looking character. Well, that's thoughtful, kind of adorable. Venusaur's large, rounded snout, wide mouth, and wide-set eyes, bumpy wart-like skin, quadruped movements are vaguely similar to those of a certain amphibian, such as a common toad, or more specifically, the Colorado River toad, both of which are toads that exude toxins from their parotoid glands. Unlike Bulbasaur, Venusaur's quote-unquote ears have hollows, indicating that they are in fact ears and not glands, as seen in many species of frogs and toads. Its claws, teeth, and build also resemble various reptiles, more specifically dinosaurs, which, given the name, Venusaur, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, dinosaur, need I say more? The flower on its back resembles the Rafflesia arnoldi, and it's found in the Amazon, and it does pretty much look like that. This thing is huge and stinky. People often describe the smell of that of like rotting meat, so I guess it's a good thing that they decided to make Venusaur's Rafflesia flower a little more fresh and fragrant. Apparently Venusaur is the same size as Tropius. Both of these beefy grass types ring in at 6 foot 7 inches and a whopping 220.5 pounds, or 100 kilos if you're anywhere else that's not America. Next up is Roserade. Roserade is number 403 and was introduced in Gen 4, and interestingly enough is also dual type grass and poison. It evolves from Roselia when exposed to a shiny stone and is the final form of Budew. Roserade appears to be based on a combination of a bouquet of roses, obviously, and a mysterious patron of a masquerade ball. Its mask, cape, and mention of its movements of a dancer in Pokédex entries seem to confirm this. It is also possible that instead of roses, its design was based on the hellebore plant, a genus in which many species are poisonous and deceptively similar to roses, tying in once again to the theme of disguise. Finally, Roserade's humanoid design, connection to flowers, and one of its egg groups suggests that it is also based on a fairy. Switching back to Gen 1, we'll actually be discussing Bulbasaur next, who, as previously mentioned, is one of the pre-evolved forms of Venusaur. So it actually is kind of cool that I got both of these in the same shuffle batch, if you will. So Bulbasaur is actually the very first out of all of the Pokemon, not in Pokemon theology where there's this whole Arceus, Mew. I'm not going to get into it, there are plenty of YouTube videos about that. But anyway, as far as the chart goes, Bulbasaur is number 1. So, Bulbasaur, not unlike Venusaur, is also a grass and poison type, and as mentioned, was featured in Gen 1. It evolves into Ivysaur at level 16, and along with Charmander and Squirtle, Bulbasaur is one of the 3 starter Pokemon from the Kanto region available in Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, Fire Red, and Leaf Green, which of course Fire Red and Leaf Green were the reboots of Red and Green, the original games for the Game Boy. Bulbasaur, and actually the Bulbasaur evolution line, was co-designed by Ken Sugimori, and Atsuko Nishida and the latter of the two designed Bulbasaur working backwards from Venusaur, meaning that it was the last of its evolutionary family to have been designed and was also directly based on Venusaur. Its design incorporates elements of other various animals such as its cat-like ears and fangs and its reptile-like claws. While its name is most likely a common combination of bulb, which is a type of plant, and the suffix sar, which is used for lizards, its Japanese name, Fushigidane, may be a combination of fushigi, mysterious, and dane, seed, but literally translates to isn't it strange, or fushigi dane. Next up is Whimsicott, who is making up the majority of our design here. So Whimsicott is number 547 and is grass and fairy type, one of the few fairy types that came out of the later generations of Pokemon. And they were introduced in Gen 5, in which it was just a grass type Pokemon, but then in Gen 6 it later got its fairy double typing. It evolves from cottony when it's exposed to a sunstone. Whimsicott's appearance alludes to a fully bloomed ball of cotton, but its behavior as a windswept wandering plant seems to be based on a tumbleweed. It may also draw some of origin from the vegetable lamb of Tartary, a mythical sheep-growing plant used to explain production of cotton in the Middle Ages. The association with sheep is reinforced by Whimsicott's inclusion in the Unova horoscope. Furthermore, Whimsicott displays a mischievous side akin to impish creatures from folklore like the Brazilian Sashi. Both are brown creatures that live in forest, ride on the winds, and play pranks. Whimsicott is most likely a combination of whimsical and cotton. However, its Japanese name, Elfun, may be a combination of elf and fu, which means wind or typhoon. And starting with our final pairing, we are going to be doing Gloom first, who is the evolved form of Oddish and is the pre-evolved form of Vileplume, who, interestingly enough, also has a Rafflesia flower on its head. And is also grass and poison, just like the previous Pokemon that had a Rafflesia flower was grass and poison, Venusaur. So, Gloom is, of course, part of Gen 1 as well. Gloom is the only dual-type Pokemon that can evolve into a single-type Pokemon. As previously stated, Gloom appears to resemble the nocturnal flower known as the Rafflesia arnoldi, which has a foul odor. The fact that its terrible-smelling pollen can be made into a wonderful perfume, and that 1 in 1,000 people enjoy its smell may be a reference to skunks, whose musk has similar qualities. Gloom was taken from the name gloom, a state of depression, and may refer to the gloom associated with smelling its stench or its seemingly depressed face. It could also come from bloom, since it is still in the blooming stage of a Rafflesia arnoldi. It could also be a reference to glume, G-L-U-M-E, which is a type of leaf in grass and flower anatomy. Its Japanese name, Kusai Hana, literally means stinking flower. And finally, we get to Victreebel. Victreebel is again from Gen 1 and is number 71 and is the final evolved form of Bellsprout and Weepinbell. So Victreebel is also known as the Flycatcher Pokemon. This is another poisonous plant. And this actually, Victreebel resembles almost identically the pitcher plant, which is another carnivorous plant that draws insects in with its sweet smell, and then at the bottom of the plant is this equivalent of a plant's stomach acid. So they slip in, they don't come out. And apparently, actually, all of the Bellsprout evolution line is supposed to resemble the pitcher plant, but Bellsprout and Weepinbell are upside down, so I don't know how efficient that would be. Anyway, while its English name is an obvious combination of victory, but it's been spun to make a visual pun of victory, and bell because of its bell shape. Its Japanese name, Utsubo, is derived from Utsubakazura, which is the literal Japanese name for pitcher plant. It may also be based on subo, which is jar, or pot, relative to bot, referring to its shape, but it could also be drawn from botanical. So here we are at the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed these Pokemon Gijinka mashups. Let me know what you thought in the comments, if you thought these mashups were successful. Even if I didn't have the pictures here, you could tell who it was mixed up with. But yeah, so I had fun drawing these. And this is definitely something that I want to do again. I do have another Gijinka video coming up later in April, but I'm probably just going to do, the standard Gijinka, not a mashup type. But yeah, so that is again it for today's video. I hope you guys have a happy Saturday, have a weird day, and I'll see y'all next time.